And it was that guy sweeping the floors that came back and gave them the best idea that saved them gazillions of dollars because they were moving around the stuff in the warehouse incorrectly. And things were getting lost and they weren't realizing they had supply of this and didn't have supply of that. And he was watching as like the forklift drivers were constantly moving this one thing in and out of the way. And yet he was like, why are we doing that? You could just put it over here and we would save money. So here's the guy sweeping the floor, but when he understands we're spending so much money on this and I know how to solve that problem. I instituted that in my company and in 1 year we saved 30%. And I never asked anybody never said we have to save money and go find way. They started having great ideas.
Welcome to Narrative's Leadership Story Talks, where great leaders go beyond the bottom line to create lasting impact. Join hosts Jerome Deroy and Julienne Ryan as they uncover the stories behind real-world challenges, offering practical insights to help you lead with empathy, authenticity, and purpose. Each episode dives into how leaders use storytelling to build trust, foster connection, and inspire action. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, driving change, or building high-performing teams.
Hello and welcome to Leadership Story Talks. I'm Jerome Deroy, CEO of Narrative.
And I'm Julienne Ryan, and I'm happy to be here as always.
Wonderful to see you again and our esteemed guest. Before we move on actually to introducing our guest, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to the podcast Leadership Story Talks wherever you find your podcasts. Leave a review and also check out our YouTube channel if you want to see us in glorious Technicolor. And you'll find lots and lots of information as usual in this episode's notes, as well as on our website, narrative.com/podcast, where you can also find our previous episodes, which are now climbing up to more than 180. All right, without further ado, we are joined today by Chris Dyer. Chris is Inc. magazine's #1 leadership speaker, a 3-time best-selling author, and an entrepreneur who spent 20 years as CEO of People G2, a background screening company he grew into a 5-time Inc. 5000 honoree and a 15-time Best Place to Work winner before selling it. He's ranked number 15 on the Global Guru's Top 30 for organizational culture, has been named a Top 101 Global Employee Engagement Influencer for 5 consecutive years. He's delivered over 300 keynotes across 21 countries for organizations including NASA, Johnson & Johnson, Intuit, and General Motors. His newest book, Moments That Matter, tackles a question most leaders never ask. If we remember less than 1% of what we experience, are we showing up for the right moments? The book introduces his C-shaped scale framework for recognizing and creating the moments that define how we lead, connect, and get remembered. Chris is also CEO of Hope Tape USA and Chief Revenue Officer at EngageBeast.ai. Chris, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Well,
Wow. Welcome.
I mean, first, thank you you didn't have to say all that stuff. And amazing that you said it all without ever, stumbling.
Inhaling.
So, I mean, I think I would have had stumbled a few times and
Oh my goodness.
I lived it. So thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. It's a real honor to have you. So I want to kick us off the way we always kick off a show. We ask this of all of our guests. So what is an experience, Chris, that has shaped who you are today? Something that still influences you, informs your work in some way?
Well, actually, I tell this story in the book and on a stage, and it might be a good time to tell the story now. When I was 11 years old, I started 5th grade in a brand new school. My parents had me in private school and they moved me to public school. And here I am now in this giant school and like everyone already has their friends and the whole environment was different. It was a bit like being dropped in the middle of the ocean and then like, someone tells you to swim. And that was sort of what I was feeling. And I was having a hard time making new friends. And so they announced there was going to be a talent show that year. And so I made the, crazy decision that I was going to go and be in the talent show. I'd sign up for it because maybe I'd make some new friends there. Maybe that'd be an easier way to do this. And so we did. I got to the little meeting and the teacher said, well, what are you going to do? What's your talent? And I was like, oh, crap. Like, I don't have a talent, those trumpet lessons didn't go so well, and I can't like kick a soccer ball for my talent. So what am I going to do? And she goes, well, how about you lip sync? Now, I don't know if you don't remember back in the 80s,
Oh,
lip
yes.
syncing was a big deal. In fact, there was a TV show called Putting on the Hits about that. That these adults would go on TV and lip sync, Michael Jackson's, latest song or whatever. And so she said, why don't you do that? And we decided on, We Built This City by Starship.
Okay.
Now, the
Interesting.
talent show came and went, and I did not win. I did not, maybe made a friend or two and, went okay. The teacher came to us, the couple kids that did the lip syncing, and said, hey, my son is actually a producer on Dick Clark's new variation of Putting on the Hits called Putting on the Kids. Would you like to go and audition? I can get you all the kids in audition. So my parents schlepped me up to Hollywood like 5 times, up and back, sitting in these, big old, like long hallways with hundreds of kids and parents and like, it's crazy. And I kept making it to the next round, thinking, there is no way I'm going to make it to the next. All these kids are so talented, And then I got the offer to be on the television show. And so I often then I play a little clip of me doing the lip syncing. Fortunately, I only do like a couple minutes or a couple seconds actually of it. But the point is, if you asked me, what's an interesting thing that happened in your life, Chris, or what's something that really impacted you or changed you, you would think I would talk about the time that I was on TV on Dick Clark's Putting on the Kids. You would think that, and I can recall that memory, but that has not shaped my life in any way. And yet it's probably the most acute thing that happened to me. But why did I tell you that story? Well, my uncle, who had terminal lung cancer, who was not supposed to be there that day, showed up.
Oh.
And he sat with me in that green room and talked to me about normal uncle stuff and riding horses and took my mind off of being nervous and all the things going on. And I just had the best day hanging out with him. I would go and visit him. He didn't live close to me. So it wasn't like I saw my uncle all the time. He was more of a, quality over quantity kind of guy. And I didn't realize it then, but he was able to see me do it. He was able to see it be on TV, and then he passed away. And that was the last time I ever saw him. And not until years later, in many, many therapy sessions, did I figure out, why do I have this compelling need to show up for people? Why is it if someone's in need or someone's in the hospital, I don't just send a card, I show up to the hospital, I bring them food. Why do I have this compelling desire to show up for the people I care about in the most overwhelming, probably too much way for them? It was because my uncle did. It was because he showed up. Right. And I think that's that moment kind of really created, I didn't know it at the time, but this real trajectory for me of if you're going to do something, you should do it. If you're going to show up, show up. If you're going to start a company, then you better work your butt off to make it be successful. I don't know if you guys allow cursing on this show, but we're not half-assing this thing anymore. Right. So I think that was that moment for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's showing up was the phrase that kept coming to mind every time you talked about your teacher and that your parents. I'm well familiar with that audition where you're, hundreds of kids and you're looking at each other. Why am I here?
Yeah.
So that is just incredible. And then your uncle thinking that was his quest. That was his quest, his mission to be there for you. And how special is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's also very moving, just on a human level, and beautifully told in terms of, we think it's about one thing and then it's really about the other. So thanks a lot. Really appreciate that. As you know, we're big on storytelling here, so always appreciate it when we get a story well told that also has emotion attached to it. And I can sort of, make the connection myself also because of the chat we had before recording. But I'd love for you to, well, I can I'll finish my thought. I can make the connection in terms of even that experience to your sort of career of building cultures and work environments and when people in which people feel they matter. But maybe for our audience, I'd love you to maybe talk a little bit about how you ended up looking at culture and the work environment as really essential to the teams you've worked with.
Well, I discovered it was essential because I had completely screwed it up and been ignoring it. Um,
Uh-huh.
right? I mean, like,
We learn from our failures, right?
right.
Yes.
Like, hey, doctor, why am I totally unhealthy? Well, maybe it's because you're not exercising, eating Twinkies all day. Oh, okay. I mean, it was like one of those moments of like, why are my people not doing what I need them to do? And why aren't they showing up? And why aren't they, why is there a disconnect? Oh, hey, idiot, it's me. Like, I'm the problem. This is what I created, and they're just giving me back what I have essentially designed. My mentor has this great saying: "Design what you want, or deal with what you get." And
Mm,
I had not designed it for how I wanted it to work. I had just been like, I'll try to be a great boss, and we'll all be in this together team. And kind of treated them like a sports team almost, like I'm the coach and they're the players, and like that was what I knew because I had been coached for many many years. But like it doesn't really work with adults, and it doesn't really work at scale. Um, and so the 2009 recession hit, and I'm like, we got to save the company. How are we going to fix this? What are we going to do? I lost 40% of my clients, 40% of my receivables overnight because 40% of my clients were mortgage companies. And it was like, how are we going to save this? And all my employees just went up and said, okay, Chris, tell us what to do. We'll do anything. Just tell us what to do. And I'm like, I know I need ideas. And they're like, we ain't got any, but tell us what to do and we'll go do it. And it was like, oh, right. And so that was the culture I built. Was Chris has the idea, or it comes out of Chris's head, then we go do it. We just execute. And I don't need a whole company full of executors. I need people who can come up with ideas and think
mm,
about things and strategize and challenge me. And I hadn't built that. So that put me on this path of like, I'm going to redo the culture. That was an immediate like lightning rod. I need to fix this. I've got to fix the culture. What I didn't know was, what are you supposed to make it? What is a good culture? And maybe there was a book out there I didn't find, but I went looking and I read hundreds of books, and I felt like they were all talking about a piece of the culture.
mm,
The lens was focused too much, right? We were in too deep. Hadn't gone broadly enough into like, what does that overarching formula need to look like? And I went on a mission to discover that. And that turned into a book and keynotes and all kinds of other stuff. But once I figured that out, it was so easy to know what to do. It wasn't easy to do it, but it was so easy to know what to do and to be able to help my leaders understand what to do and help my people understand how they should operate. Because I could finally answer the question, people like us do what? Do this kind of thing. We don't do that kind of thing. And so that they could navigate correctly in the organization.
Interesting. Yeah.
in between more awareness and self-awareness and a clear picture, and I just lost 40% of my customers. I'm sure I and others are gonna be curious about, like, what happened? Was there a significant step or 2 or action you took in between from folks? Like, that it doesn't have to be a big idea, it has to be a idea that you all collaborated on or said, "We're gonna do this in the short term and
So
build on."
we built it piece by piece, and I was discovering. So I have these 7 pillars, and what's interesting is that we sort of discovered a pillar and then implemented that pillar to see, did it help? Was that correct? And does it stick? Because
Mm,
there are other things that we tried that were great and nice, but like they didn't have long term
okay.
value. They weren't going to help us long term. It was sort of the shiny object. It's like when some leader goes and reads some book and they're like, now we're going to change everything. And that lasts 3 weeks and it doesn't last. There are
Mhm.
some principles that last and others that don't. So the first thing we did is everyone took like a 35% pay cut. I sent everybody home. We went fully remote. We thought that would be temporary. It turned out we never came back to the office because people loved it so much. So we had to like triage and save the business. That was step one. I would say the first thing that we did was I read the book, The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. And he
Mm.
talked about in that how they went radically transparent. So Jack's a great example of his whole book is about being transparent is the most important thing to having a great culture. I think it's wildly important, but it's one of 7 actually things if you go a little bit broader. And I mean, he was giving his P&L to everyone, like including the guy who swept the giant warehouse floors and then like taught them how to read a P&L statement, have accounting and financial literacy. And it was that guy sweeping the floors that came back and gave them the best idea that saved them gazillions of dollars because they were
Yeah.
moving around the stuff in the warehouse incorrectly. And things
Yeah.
were getting lost and they weren't realizing they had supply of this and didn't have supply of that. And he was watching as like the forklift drivers were constantly
Mhm.
moving this one thing in and out of the way. And yet he was like, why are we doing that? You could just put it over here and we would save money. So here's the guy sweeping the floors, but when he understands we're spending so much money on this and I know how to solve that problem. I instituted that in my company and in 1 year we saved 30%. And I
Mm.
never asked anybody never said we have to save money and go find way. They started having great ideas. Why do we
Mm.
spend money on that? Why are we spending so much on healthcare? Why don't we do great questions? Let's go figure that out. And again, so then they started doing what I wanted, right? I wanted them to come to me with ideas and solutions. And so that transparency was the really big first one. And that was the one that got everyone addicted to, okay, Chris, this culture thing, you might be onto something because wow, did this really change things for us?
Mm.
But it's also permission. That person on the warehouse,
Mhm.
on and the and distribution floor doesn't feel that they may have a voice or entitled to or allowed. And like every storyteller out there, you told the story, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about a scene in Illinois in a was a for adult beverage company. I was listening to a person who was a regular worker saying we should do this and that to change the bottles around. And I'm like, why don't you say something? And go, those guys, they've been to college, they have a degree. I'm not going to speak up in front of them, but
Yeah.
it's encouraging to say, well, you're going to save and change something that we need done. So
Yeah.
it's that confidence. So building that environment of listening, you're not going to be dismissed for, and even a bad idea sometimes leads to a good idea. You just have to dice it and splice it and figure out why you could build on it.
When we learn from those, even when they're bad ideas and they understand like why won't this work? And why was this, again, that's another opportunity to be transparent. Eh,
Mhm,
Like, thank you for telling us that. Let me help you understand the more complex part of this. So you can go back and think about it and understand why we're doing it this way. But they still feel heard and they learn from that.
mhm.
Right. And
Mm.
now they feel more invested in the business as well.
Hmm. Yeah, so interesting. You mentioned also that your company went fully remote and never came back. There's still was that 2008, 2009, something like that, around that time?
Yeah. 2009.
That
Yes.
that happened? Yeah, so, that's like fully 10 years before, even more, 10 plus years before COVID. And then COVID hits, and of course now, at that point, everybody's like, well, we had no choice but to go remote, and then everybody discovers the pros and cons of going remote, and there's still debate today in terms of going back to office fully or doing hybrid or doing remote. I just wonder from your experience, what are some of the leadership behaviors that you have sort of taken away from going fully remote that you feel have made a real impact in keeping that kind of your strong belief that culture had to be and people had to be at the center of everything. Because going remote, that's a challenge when you have to do that and try to keep people together and productive, et cetera, et cetera.
The easiest way to manage people is to be in the office. The best way to
Mm.
manage people is to be remote, and the hardest is to be hybrid.
Mm.
And and so what I find is most people are trying to do hybrid is some like balance or just some compromise, and actually it's the hardest one to do because communication really gets kind of siloed because you have the people in the office, not in the office, and when you're coming in, and
Right.
like
Yeah.
so much easier if you have a more intentional pattern. And so
Mhm,
intentionality here was when we went remote, that made us be way more intentional about everything we did, which had a huge benefit. We had not
Mm.
been intentionally communicating with everybody. We went remote, we started having a monthly all staff meeting. We started the team started, all of a sudden it was like, well, we're not all there. And so we better be really intentional about how we work. The other thing we figured out was that not every group of people wanted to operate and communicate with each other in the same way that other groups did.
Hmm.
And so it was really important that we allowed them to create their own team charter. And whenever someone would leave that team or join that team, they had to reestablish the team charter. It's almost like every time you got a new resident in your city, can you imagine you had to re-vote for city council again? Like everyone had to be on board again with the rules of how we operated. So if
Yeah.
I looked at my customer service team, they were like, we respond quickly to each other. We collaborate. We're there to help each other solve problems. But we work from 9 to 5 or like whatever our designated hours are. I had some people that started 9 to 5 for them on the East Coast, but like I work from 9 to 5, my time zone. Don't bug me at 8:55 and don't you dare send me a Slack message at 5:01. Like they really protected their time and they were on board with that. So they were really good about putting their Slack on do not disturb when they left for the day. They also had that safety and that permission from each other. Like I might need to send you a message, but I don't expect you to respond until you're back in the office, and that's okay. So they created that charter. My sales team, it was, I'll get back to you when I can. I'm super busy, but feel free to text me and call me, Slack me, email me, whatever you need, any time of day. Like there are no rules, there are no boundaries. Like we just run and gun and we're just, whatever. Every time they had someone new come in, leadership change, always had the same charter. It was, I'm good with anything. I'm here to make money. I'm just running and gunning. I may be on a plane. Like you, if you haven't heard from me, bug me again. It's okay.
Hmm.
Wildly different, right? And that was okay because they created what was good for them and made them feel safe and made them feel like that was how they were going to enjoy work.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
we made sure they had their charter. We made sure they had one source of communication. Sales team broke that rule all the time, but we tried to make it like you communicate in one place. Please don't be the person that emails, Slacks, and texts like within 5 minutes. Like that's just annoying, right? We tried to push everyone to
I'm having flashbacks. I'm
yeah,
sorry. And then show up at your door when we had a door.
right. And then check your door. But hey, did you get my email? I texted them as well. Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
been
you're
2 minutes.
like I've been trying to figure out how to answer you. Can you give me a minute? Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to push everyone to Slack only so that we could minimize, so that you could go do not disturb when you needed to and not feel like your phone was going off or your email box. And that, again, so that we really understood that was one area that was really important. I would say the most controversial thing that we discovered that people usually freak out about when I mention is that we pretty much outlawed one-on-one meetings.
Hmm.
And I'll give you some parameters. If you and I were working on a project, of course we can have a one-on-one meeting. If I needed to coach you or mentor you or something, of course we're going to have a one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about that ridiculous expectation that your boss is supposed to have a meeting with you every week at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, and we're supposed to talk about your goals and we're supposed to talk about how you're doing, and like that never happens. And it get canceled all the time. And what the boss ends up doing, if they have 10 direct reports, is having 10 1-hour conversations or 10 30-minute conversations, repeating the exact same information they did for every single person, and being the sole responsible person for your career trajectory. Here I am in a CEO group where I'm with a group of 15 really smart people, and they're all helping me get better. And I'm like in my brain going, why aren't we doing this at work? And so we said, no more teams. You will now meet as a team. All know each other's goals. You will all help, and we will have a meeting once, if it's once a week is the right cadence. Some teams was twice a month, but like you're all going to help each other on your career development. You're all going to talk about your goals. You're all there to help each other, push each other, support each other. And your boss is just a facilitator of that, not the sole person whose job it is to do that. And if your boss is gone that week or out meeting the client, guess what? You still get to have the meeting. and you
Mm.
still get to talk about your problems and talk about things and move information around. And so the moment we did that, we had like a 20-point improvement in like 3 months in employee satisfaction,
Hmm.
Mm.
because
Yeah.
suddenly they were getting their answers. Suddenly they had someone to talk to. Suddenly things were getting done. Not, I'm waiting for my boss to finally get me an answer,
Mm.
right? Or
Mhm.
finally give me
Yeah.
permission. So we're moving one-on-ones, those traditional one-on-ones. I think they're archaic. They're like, industrial revolution, or I don't know what. It doesn't work anymore. And no Fortune 100 leader that I've ever talked to in the last 5 years does those. They've
Mm.
moved to the model that I've discussed, or they're not even doing them at all. Like, it's someone else is doing the career mentoring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's, there's all kinds of employee resource groups as well, and those kinds of things in these bigger organizations,
Yep.
where there's a lot more autonomy and permission. Coming back to that word, in terms of people supporting each other as opposed to waiting for the boss to say when you can do that. And here's the dedicated time to do that. So that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for being so specific about it as well. So I think our,
Mhm.
our, our listeners really appreciate being able to take some of these ideas and see, oh yeah, how could that apply in my organization? So I really love that. I want to, we're believe it or not, we're already getting to our 30-minute mark, but I want
Oh.
to ask you before we go about moments that matter, which is the title of your new book. And if you could tell us a little bit about what does that mean to you? You told us this beautiful story at the beginning, and obviously that was a moment that really mattered to you in terms of how your uncle showed up for you. So I can see that in your life. But when you talk about working with others and organizations and everything we've talked about so far, uh, how do you sort of define that moments that matter?
I had the opportunity to go out to dinner with some former employees a few months back it was right before I decided to write the book. And we were reminiscing and talking about things, and they were ultimately telling me that they believed our time in that company to them was the best of times. And and that they were also really mad at me for selling the company.
Okay.
No, yeah. Wonderfully backhanded compliment. Um, but what they were ultimately telling me, as I sort of pushed on them and asked them deeper questions about why they felt that way, they were consistently saying to me, remember when we did that thing? Remember when we went through that big moment? Remember when we figured out how to save the $1 million client? Remember how we, didn't have to lay anybody off, even though we lost 40% of our clients? It was all these big moments where we showed up and we got the moment right. They
Mm.
never said, I really enjoyed it how we always got together on Thursday at 9 o'clock for that one-on-one meeting. Like, they didn't say any of that stuff, right? Nothing was the little stuff. It was all remember when we did that big thing? Remember how we showed up for people in that big way? And I was like, this is what I've been trying to say to people on stage and through my work and with clients. Two things. One, I'm trying to help organizations create the best place that their people are ever going to work. And unlike the Olympics, which we just watched, there isn't just one gold medalist. You all can be a gold medalist. You all can create the best place that your specific employees will ever work. That is an achievable goal for every organization out there, but that is a big stretch goal. And so that they helped me realize that's what we had been doing. That was always kind of like I was always pushing myself of how do we make the organization better? How do we make it better? And that turned out to be the place that was the best place that they ever worked. And to do that, though, you have to know that a moment has arrived. And sometimes it's a big giant, hey, we're going through a recession moment. And sometimes it's like, this is someone's first day at work. How do we curate that? This is
Mhm.
someone's first day on a brand new team. That's a big deal. Did we honor what they did on the old team? Do we celebrate them leaving the old team? And how are we helping them go on to the new team now? That's a transition moment. Like, how do we think about these moments as ways to really support people in ways that they feel seen, that they feel empowered, that they have the permission that they need to do these things, I have the training and the skills to be successful. All of those things. We have to see that first. And that's where people get screwed up first, is they don't even see it. And they realize when it's too late, oh, I probably should have done something for that person. I probably should have said something. And now it's too late. Now I feel like an idiot. What do I do now? And then now I'll just push it down and hope no one notices, right? And just keep going. So we get the sweaty palms and our heart races, or maybe we get a little sweaty on our brow, or we get a tight chest, or our body actually gives us these physical reactions when a moment is beginning to happen. And we think it's stress. It's not stress. It's actually our body saying, hey, idiot, this is something you should pay attention to, right? You're not stressed out. You're just excited, or maybe you're being alert, or you're noticing something here. And that's when you got to okay, for me, I need to take 30 seconds. I'm going to take some deep breaths, and I'm going to take a little mini meditation, and I'm going to think about, why am I feeling this way? What's happening? This is a moment I need to do something about. Then you need to shape the moment. Which moment am I in? Is this an inception moment, which is something brand new for somebody? Is this a decision moment? Did maybe someone make a bad decision? They were trying to do the right thing, but they made the wrong decision. And now I need to go and help them, right? I need to show them compassion, but also help them realize how to make a better decision next time. Or maybe they made a terrible decision and I got to fire them. This is all these kind of moments, right? And then the last thing is that we really have to figure out how to do correctly is, how do I scale the moment? Because let's just pretend the three of us are on a team, and maybe one of you is really struggling. Maybe you're fighting with your spouse. You're maybe going through possible divorce, and you're really having a hard time keeping up with work. And I step in to help you. I'm supporting you. I'm helping you. But then I don't tell the other person. The other person has no idea what's happening, has no idea that I helped you. Well, if I don't communicate in that some way, not to brag, not to get brownie points, but just if I don't share that, then the other person on the team doesn't have the psychological safety to know that I would show up for them too, that I'll be there for them too if something ever happens to them. Hopefully it never does. But if it does, I'm going to be there for them too. And leaders miss that. Well, just employees or people in general miss this opportunity. They kind of don't want to brag, or they don't want to seem like they're whatever. But they're not sending the signal to the world that I'm a good person. I'm going to help the people I care about. I'm going to step up and be there for you. You don't have to worry about me. If you have a problem, I'm there to help you. Right. I'm not your enemy. I'm your friend. And so that may be the longer answer than you wanted, but that was why moments were important to me, because I really saw that people were not getting one or more of these areas right. And they were just completely missing the most totally easy way to show up for the people they care about and to be successful in life.
Yeah. No, and
Well,
you're so just a quick thing. I mean, it's also coming back full circle to the notion of transparency, right? That is also being part of transparent is being transparent is when you actually say, I've done this thing for someone, I'm ready to do it for anyone. It's not favoritism. It's not whatever you might be thinking it is, because I'm not telling anyone about it. That's when people start to make up things in their own minds, because that's what we do as humans is we make meaning out of everything. And so if you're not transparent about every single action you take and why you take those, especially as a leader, then people are going to make that up. And that's when, trouble can start. Julienne, I know you like to say something.
because to paraphrase something you learned years ago in org psych, there's theory and then there's theory in use. So you can have a great little PDF saying, hey, we're such a friendly company, we're so supportive, yada, yada, yada. And then you watch somebody get destroyed, or because there's toxicity in the management style, you don't really believe that anymore. And you have all the rights not to. But if you see it as living proof and they get substantiated and repeated, that's when you bring data forward and people say, well, they are walking their talk. They are really mean this. And then you embolden people to step up a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're like, it's worth spending my
Yeah.
time investing everything and doing the whole crapshoot. Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's a good distinction. We've all known those leaders who are really tough and they're kind of toxic. Like, it comes off as almost being toxic. And yet we also know leaders that were just as tough and just as demanding. And yet when they left the room, someone would say, yeah, they would defend them and say, yeah, but they really care. I know that they have
Mm,
shown up for me. They've helped me. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
they're tough and yeah, they're demanding, but like, I also know we're okay and we're safe with them, even though they really push us hard. And like, and that's because that person showed up in the right moments, whereas the other one
right.
just blew past the moments and just expected people to get over it and to deliver what they wanted.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is
Right.
hopefully my guide to whoever wants to read the book, to know how to be one of those types of people versus the other.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And really want to encourage everybody to find the book "Moments That Matter" by Chris Dyer. We'll have all that information in the episode notes today. Before we leave, Chris, is there anything else you want to leave our audience with? The floor is yours.
I always like to remind people that whatever you are not changing, you are
Mm,
choosing.
mm,
Mm.
Nobody's coming to pick you up off the couch or to tell you to go get a new job, or to go make more money. Like, there is like no one coming to help you but you.
yeah.
Nobody. Right? We have
Yeah.
sometimes friends and spouses and partners who can be there as a great support to us, but like, ultimately, if you don't like something in your life right now, you're the only one who can change that. And if you don't, that's your choice. Like, you're choosing to allow it to continue. And that was like the burning lightning rod that hit me across the head every morning for a couple of years as I was changing the culture, that I had to be the one to change it. I had to be the one to push this change, to make things happen, because I had the authority and the ability and the permission to do that as the CEO. But it's true of like, of anything. You want to lose 5 pounds, you don't want to be in that abusive relationship anymore, you want a new job, whatever the thing is, like, no one's coming to get you to do it. There's no teacher or sports coach or Tony Robbins is not going to knock on your door tomorrow and take you down the path, right? Like,
Yeah.
you've got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
mobile unit will not be in your neighborhood coming to check on you.
Right.
Uh,
Well, beautiful. That's amazing advice. Yes, that's going to go up on our wall of our virtual wall of
quotes.
quotes from this podcast. Love that one, as will many other things you said today. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time, Chris. So thanks so much for being here. And again, I want to encourage our listeners to find Chris wherever you can find him, and you will see that in our episode notes. There's lots of links and social media, as well as his various books, including Moments That Matter, which is the latest one. So if you have been inspired by this session, I would also encourage you to look at narrative.com, narrativ.com, or get in touch with either me or Julienne. It's very easy to do so through our website. If you're considering enrolling yourself and or your team in one of our group or one-on-one training programs, where you can learn how to tell the stories about the moments that matter in your life, in your career, and get some clarity on that. We're always ready to listen to you. As always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And also check out our YouTube channel. This all drives the word of mouth, and we so appreciate you listening today. And I appreciate you, Julienne, for being my
Thank
wonderful
you.
co-host once more.
Thank you very much.
All
Always
right. And
fun.
thanks again. Thanks again, Chris. And we will all see you later. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.